And we are back. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me on my second installment of the Wham Deep Dive series. Yes, we are onto the one and only album that really sent Wham into the stratosphere. I just want to thank you all so much for tuning into my last deep dive video of the Wham series. I received a lot of very positive feedback on that video. I'm just so glad that you guys enjoyed it. We are continuing our deep dive journey into the incredible pop duo that is Wham. I have really been excited about starting this series predominantly because I am a huge George Michael fan. I actually mentioned it in the last video. I really love George Michael and his work, and I was really keen on doing a series on George Michael. So we are going to be diving into the 1984 album Make It Big by Wham, which is coming up on my screen in a moment. I do love this cover, very nice and simple, quite elegant, and the band have shifted that style of young bad boys to slightly more elegant and sophisticated, and I'm seeing 80s George Michael on this cover here, and this is the album that catapulted them into worldwide fame. So they really stepped away from that disco funk and moved more into emotional, introspective lyrics and songs. We have some classics on this album, ones that you will all recognize just by hearing them. We have Wake Me Up Before You Go Go, Careless Whisper. I'm pretty sure on the extended edition of this album there is a remix of Last Christmas because that was around the same time. So those are the few songs on the album that I am familiar with. There's going to be a little bit more range in terms of songs as well. So we've got some upbeat songs and we've also got some ballads, which is nice because I do really enjoy albums that have a little bit of a mix of upbeat, infectious songs to more down-tempo or ballad style tracks. I am super excited to dive into this album. We're going to be jumping into track number 1. It's called Wake Me Up Before You Go Go.
Jitterbug. 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 You put the boom boom into my heart.
Just want to say that is such a catchy introduction. I don't know where they came up with the idea of like jitterbug. However, I do know how this song came to be. When I was watching the Wham documentary, Andrew Ridgeley goes into how this song became Wake Me Up Before You Go Go. And it was a note that Andrew left on his bedroom door to his parents. So he made a bit of a mistake when he was writing the note and it said wake me up before you go go. And I think it just inspired the song title and the actual song itself. And it's so catchy how a piece of paper with writing on it goes from being a #1 hit around the world is just, it's just baffling to me. Honestly, it is.
Wake me up before you go, go. Don't leave me hanging on like a yo-yo.
How you can be in a bad mood when listening to the song, I don't know. I feel like if you're having a really bad day, this is the kind of song you want to play that will cheer you up. The energy, the vocals, everything is just so infectious. We've got a lot of percussive elements, some vocal doubles on George Michael's voice, so it's just so catchy with a chorus that just sticks in your head the first time that you hear it.
Take me dancing tonight. I wanna hit that high. Yeah, yeah.
We've got this Rhodes key, is it a Rhodes keyboard in the background? It's going doo 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 underneath George's voice. Again, it's one of those ones that makes you want to move your feet or clap your hands or click or do something like that, and that's what is so infectious about a song like this.
Me up before you go, go. Don't you dare to leave me hanging on like a yo-yo. Take me dancing. Boom, 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 boom.
His voice is like velvet, but then it really cuts through a song like this that is just so energetic and just so powerful. Of course, everyone knows that song. I'm a millennial and I know that song. I used to hear it in the car, on the radio, at shopping malls. Everywhere I went, I would hear this song when I was growing up. And I grew up in the UK, so yes, Wham are very much a national treasure. So that was Wake Me Up Before You Go Go. As I mentioned before, just so incredibly catchy. The right balance of percussion, vocals, the brass section in the middle, middle, which I believe was trumpets, and then that really nice soft bridge that leads back into the chorus. There are just so many elements of that track that just make it such a classic, and it's just such a feel-good song. It's like falling in love for the first time or something, you know? You put the boom boom into my heart. Just some of the lyrics are just so feel good. I'm in love, I'm happy, I'm the happiest I've ever been. So a great start to the album. I'm interested to see where we go next with track number 2. It is called Everything She Wants. Oh, I know this song. Sorry, I know this song. This is one that I have heard before in more recent times. This was also a single, so if I am correct in saying Careless Whisper, Wake Me Up Before You Go Go, Everything She Wants, and Freedom were the singles on this album. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Somebody told me, boy, everything she wants is everything she sees. I guess I must have loved you.
You've got that intermittent synth, and then it's just sitting layered really nicely with that bass. But it almost sounds like this beat was done on a drum machine, so maybe something like a Lindrum, because around this time a lot of artists were using the Lindrum. I could be wrong in saying this, but I think the Lindrum really came into prominence around 85, and this was between 83 and 84. But there's definitely a sequencer or a drum machine being used in this track. There's a harmony. If you were to take George's vocals and isolate them from the track, they would really, really stand on their own, because he just has this really beautiful voice that just carries, and there's just this gorgeous resonance in his voice that I think it can really sit on its own, especially when he carries notes, when he goes da 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 da. Just those moments in the song, and then they layer them with other vocal sections. It's just, stunning. So we're bringing that synth up an octave.
Some people work for a living. Some people work for fun. Girl, I just work for you. I can work any harder than I do.
Have you noticed he just really plays with range in this track too? He's hitting some really high notes, and then he has these little sections where he's going more into that lower register, and the emotion in that voice. This is one of the reasons why I love him so much. He just had such a powerful voice.
Somebody tell me, why I work so hard for you. Oh, to give you money. Oh.
So that is one of the most recent songs in their repertoire that I've actually heard or that I've listened to before, and it got quite popular on TikTok for a while. People were doing these really cool dances to it. It goes back to their older work on the first album, where it's very much that kind of funky disco flavor that gets you moving and dancing, but this time the lyrics are so emotionally charged. There's a lot of power behind George's delivery of those lyrics, and the messages are different. So we had a lot of political and social themes in the first album. We're moving more towards themes of love and heartbreak, and once again George really experiments with his vocal range in this track. There are a few moments where I was just blown away by that delivery. So that was track number 2. A lot of very, very catchy elements as well. I love the electronic drum kit, the use of different rhythmic parts and the synthesizers and the bass. Just really, really enjoyable. So we are moving on to track number 3 now. It is called Heartbeat. Okay. Definitely never heard this one before.
Another summer, another vacation is over.
Ooh.
A September morning with the sun and the smell of the clover.
Nice.
Down by the gate we sit and we watch all our friends go by.
Can I just say really quickly, why do I get like a bit of an Italian flavor from this song? I was in Italy last year and there were just so many ballads I was hearing on the radio when I was walking through Rome that really echoed this style. So it feels very much like a Euro ballad or something like that. I'm probably not explaining it in the best way, but it just really feels like, yeah, like it's drawn some influence from Italian love songs or ballads or I'm not sure where I'm going with that one.
Heartbeat, heartbeat,
Yeah.
why do you bear me now? Oh, you hurt me, desert me in my darkest hour.
Okay, yeah. So it does sound very Italian. There's just something about it that's giving me like Italian pop music from this time. For some reason, it just reminds me of that song, da 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 da, será porque te amo. I'm sure the Italians watching my channel know what song I'm talking about. I get that song for some reason, it just jumps out at me.
I was happy with the kisses she gave me, but now there's nothing on earth can save me. Why should I care? I can't have you.
Can I just ask, is anyone else hearing that influence of like Italian love songs and pop music from a certain period of time, maybe the 70s and 80s? I'm gonna go away and listen to my little Italian playlist that I made when I was over there. Honestly, it's just such a beautiful song. Just reading the lyrics on the screen here, we're going back to themes of love and heartbreak and pain. Just that longing in his voice and the lyrics is just beautiful.
Heartbeat, heartbeat, why do you bear me now? Oh, you hurt me, desert me in my darkest hour. Heartbeat, heartbeat, why do you keep me here? How could I help but admire her beauty, standing on the line between desire and duty?
This one is a favorite. Probably because it brings back so many memories. And I know I brought up Italy. Some people are probably thinking, what? What's this song got to do with Italy? It's just the style, the instruments used, the percussion, especially the piano. There were definitely elements and instruments that I think rang similar or contributed to why it felt quite nostalgic. I'm sure if you listen to it enough, you can definitely hear the influence, but I was really quite surprised by that. And that was definitely our first ballad on the album, and you know me, I do love a good ballad. So we're moving on to track number 4 now. And track number 4 is called Like a Baby. Oh, okay. We're slowing things down a little bit now. Oh, hello. I love that synth pad. Again, it's almost like a Rhodesy kind of sound. This one's also giving me a real Mediterranean feel. There's something here. There's something that George was listening to maybe at the time that really influenced some of these songs and some of the writing. Or maybe even Andrew had some influences as well. So when they sat down together, maybe they just throwing melodic ideas around or working with other live artists to develop this real Mediterranean kind of romantic feel. This is very relaxing. This is the wine and dine and invite someone over to your place for dinner by candlelight. And this is playing in the background. I think I'm living an alternate life at the moment in the 1980s where I'm the single working class female that has just invited a love interest around to her apartment for dinner. And this is my choice of record. I was just trying to be funny, by the way. Oh, here we go. Okay. Ooh. Isn't his voice just... Wow, George, wow.
Gone away.
I'm just gonna wait till the end of this one.
Like a baby.
As romantic as it sounded, the lyrics were very much another heartbreak, not exactly two people coming together, more like breaking apart. So I'm hearing a lot of that. I'm hearing a lot of themes around lost lovers, and it makes me wonder if that was something that George resonated with at the time, or just trying to write songs based on something that many people struggle with in everyday life, that overall theme of being in love and losing someone. And I think we've all been through that in some form or another. It's a relatable thing, and love songs are timeless, right? Moving on now to track 5, it's called Freedom. I do know this song, but a little fact I will tell you, the first time I heard this song, I didn't hear this version. I heard another version by a female pop group from New Zealand. They covered this song on their debut album, and they did a really incredible job of it.
Every day I hear a different story. People saying that you're no good for me. Saw you love her with another and she's making a fool of you. Oh.
Is it me, or do I get a real... It feels very derivative of maybe pop music from the late 60s. The type of instruments being used, the structure as well. We've got that snare on every beat, and it's really adding some energy to this, but also maybe a little derivative of 60s Motown. So there was actually a song that I missed from the previous album that was a cover of a Motown song. I think it was Love Machine. I didn't know that that was actually a cover. I haven't really dived too deep into Motown. However, I'm hearing, yeah, some kind of Motown elements here, but maybe some influence from the Beatles. Just that era of music is really coming through in this track in particular.
I don't want your freedom. I don't want to play around. I don't want nobody, baby. Hard time love just brings me down. I don't need your freedom.
I love that note. I don't need your freedom. Surprised I even hit it then. It's funny, the cover I heard is from a female to male perspective, so I'm just so used to hearing, boy, all I want right now is you.
But you know that I'll forgive you just this once, twice, forever. 'Cause baby, you could drag me to hell and back just as long as we're together.
Going back to the themes of the song once again, you can treat me terribly just as long as we're together. Not the best message, but it definitely goes back to another common struggle of just being completely blinded by love.
I don't want your freedom. I don't want to play around. I don't want nobody, baby. Part-time love just brings me down.
I always thought he said, I don't want your body, but it's I don't want no body, baby. That would make no sense. I don't want your body. Sorry, there's just something so funny about mishearing lyrics. It's like, I want you, babe, but I don't want your body. I'm not sure how I used to think that that made sense. Now I'm hearing a Beatles influence, especially in this outro section. Or like elements of 60s rock and roll. I am swimming in this jacket, by the way. I've just realized. Probably about 2-3 sizes too big for me, but it's very 80s. You should see the collar on this thing. It's just so 80s. I wore it in a photo shoot that I took a while ago, and I just had these big, broad shoulders when I was wearing it, and it's got shoulder pads in it. It is actually a vintage jacket, so it does have shoulder pads in it, so it does accentuate your shoulders, because my shoulders are basically non-existent. Like, I'll put a handbag on my shoulders and it will fall off because I just don't have shoulders. It's basically just a straight wee. So it's nice to have some accent here, some kind of feature. And I know it was a huge thing in the 80s. I mean, if you look at the album cover, you can clearly see that Andrew's got some shoulder pads going on there. And I love that about 80s fashion, is the volume. Everything was just extra hair, extra clothes. And I do love the shapes, the geometric shapes of 80s clothing. I think it was Patrick Nagel who used a lot of geometric expression in his artwork, but there's a lot of artwork from the 80s where everyone is just square. A lot of squares to accentuate people's shapes rather than soft lines and curves. Anyway, I won't go too much into that because I'm not a visual artist, but it's just a very interesting observation that I've made. So track number 5, Freedom. What did we think? Great song. It just felt quite nostalgic and just quite catchy as well. Easy to sing along to. Track number 6 now is called If You Were There. We're getting 60s from this one as well. Yeah. Ooh. You know, in some way, this is rather reminiscent of their first album too. I'm still in that sphere where I'm hearing a lot of very catchy elements and piano and really nice, beautiful chords as well.
If you were there, you know. If you were there, you know. If you were there, you know.
Yeah, definitely in that chorus too, when you hear the backing vocalist with George going, if you were there, you'd know. That's where I'm hearing that influence of 60s. And again, we have another love song, so we're still on the love train.
For you not to have faith in me, no. 'Cause it's by your side, girl, that I long to be. If you were there, you'd know. If you were there, you'd know that I care. I care for you, baby.
This is another feel-good song. I think it comes down to the key, the vocals, the melody. Not as energetic as Wake Me Up Before You Go Go, but this is really taking me there. And it's funny, just going back to Wake Me Up Before You Go Go, there were very much 60s and 70s elements in that song as well, even though it is, you know, quintessential 80s. And when you think of the 80s, you think of a track like Wake Me Up.
If you were there, you'd know. If you were there, you'd know that I care. I care for you, baby. I swear.
Playing around with range again. At the end, I feel like I heard a female voice in the background, which was interesting. It might have been Shirley or Pepsi. So they must be in this track as the backing vocalists for the chorus, but I don't hear them as often as I thought I would in some of the albums. That's something I did want to comment on. I do hear them occasionally, but not as much as what I thought. And I know that they do serve as backing vocalists for Wham. However, I thought I'd hear a lot more duets with George, but it is mostly George taking the lead on the vocals, which is understandable because he does have the most incredible voice. However, I was expecting a little bit more from Shirley and Pepsi. Anyway, I did enjoy that song, probably not as much as the others, so it's probably going a little bit further down the list for me. We are now on to track number 7, which is the second to last track on the album. It's called Credit Card Baby. So we had Like a Baby and now we have Credit Card Baby. This is the third track in a row that is giving me 1960s. Very much reminds me of the Foundations, some of their songs.
You said that you loved me, thought that it was true. You said that you needed me, and baby, I believe that too. You can have my credit card, baby, but keep your red hot fingers off of my heart, lady.
I love that chorus, especially the first line. You can have my credit card, baby.
All I know is what I see. You're getting what you want, and girl, it ain't just me. No matter how you cry, I'm not giving any love away. Do you think I'm crazy? All I know is what I see. But what can I do when you pretend that you're in love with me, baby?
Even though the theme is very much you're just here for my money, it just has that upbeat element to it. It's quite catchy. Yeah.
You have a best that you make for yourself. You got to wreck your
Oh,
opportunities
nice.
and lay off the shelf. You wanna stay around. Well, that's okay. It's just a game that we play.
It felt like it kept getting quieter, especially in the vocals. And that's where we finished. Okay, good song, considering it's about a gold digger. Very memorable too. So we've reached that moment where we are onto the last track of the album, and it is a classic. It is Careless Whisper. Careless Whisper was written, I think, a long time before this album came out. And there were a few different variations, I think, of Careless Whisper. There was a demo that George recorded that didn't have any saxophone. It was mostly just accompaniment with drums and guitar and George singing. But then the band traveled to the United States and George went to Alabama. George ventured to Muscle Shoals studio to record some sessions of Careless Whisper. And Muscle Shoals was very famous. I believe it's still there to this day. There are a lot of artists like Aretha Franklin, Etta James, Bob Dylan. I think Cat Stevens has recorded there before. So they have quite a repertoire of artists. And George had a bit of a moment where he was just very excited to record amongst such reputable artists. And so there was some sessions recorded of Careless Whisper. I think his name is Jerry Wexley or Wexler. Sorry if I got that name wrong, but he did the original saxophone on Careless Whisper. And unfortunately, it didn't really capture the overall sound and feel that George was going for. So he ended up ditching that version of Careless Whisper. It is available to listen to on YouTube. There is the original version on there that you can listen to, but I'm going to dive into the studio version, the one that we all know and love, featuring saxophonist Steve Gregory. His delivery is just so incredibly beautiful, and I think that that saxophone is what makes the song so incredibly memorable because it's one of the first things that we hear in the introduction. I may have to cut it down and play it in small snippets, but if you do want to hear the song in its entirety, take that moment to just really enjoy this track. Here we are with track number 8, Careless Whisper. Oh, okay. This is a different version.
Time can never mend the careless whispers of a good friend to the heart and mind.
I actually have chills right now.
Comfort in the truth.
This is a different version. I'm not used to this. I'm so used to hearing do 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 da 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 da. So this must be a different version. I'm gonna say that the one that I'm thinking of is probably a radio cut. There we go.
I'm never gonna dance again. Guilty feet have got no rhythm.
Sorry, I'm going full lip sync here with the song.
Should have known better to cheat a friend. Waste the chance that I'd been given.
what I'm going to do really quickly, and in the interest of time, I'm going to do it quickly. I'm going to play a little bit of the original version of the chorus for you, only because I want you to hear the difference in delivery on George's vocals. So what we have here is the original. So just going to that original version, George's delivery is quite different. So in this version of the song, I can hear that he's carrying a lot of the notes, and I'm not feeling as much emotion in the original version as I do in the final studio version. I'm gonna give this my best shot, but what I'm hearing is, waste the chance that I'd been given. Whereas the studio version is slightly different. The way that he enunciates certain words in that chorus, it's very much like, should've known better than to cheat a friend and waste the chance that I'd been given. Da 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 da. Whereas in this original version, he is, waste the chance that I'd been given. So we're almost carrying that note. I'm just hearing that very subtle shift in the final version, but it really adds a lot more impact than the original. Anyway, let's continue.
I'm never gonna dance again. Guilty feet have got no rhythm. Though it's easy to pretend, I know you're not a fool. Should've known better to cheat a friend and waste the chance that I'd been given.
It's just incredible, just the power and the emotion behind it. I want to hear that original saxophone too. The original sax is quite raspy, and there's a lot of notes that sound like they fall flat. Maybe it's just the way that they sit in the mix, but this original saxophone does not have the power anywhere near Steve Gregory's sax. I do love this part. Picking on that guitar at the very end. There is this effect or technique they use on that vocal at the end. I don't know what it is, but it almost sounds like some kind of tape distortion or some kind of tape manipulation of the vocal, because you hear it going da da, and it kind of sounds a little bit like it's pitched, but it's artificially pitched. It's interesting. I don't know how they do it or how they did it. It's probably something to do with the way that they manipulate a tape or something, but yeah, it moved me to tears, and I didn't think it would. I've heard that song so many times and I haven't cried, but it's just when you sit here and you listen to the lyrics and you really immerse yourself in the experience of the song, you do tend to feel the emotions and the impact of the song itself. So, but yes, what an incredible way to finish the album on such a classic. Wake Me Up Before You Go Go and Careless Whisper, I believe they both made it to the #1 spot in the UK and the US, and this album really launched their career to new heights. I think with Careless Whisper, there was a lot of development of that song, and I think George just wanted to get it to the right spot before it was released, and I think it's so good that he took his time when he developed the track, because he could have just released the original version and just be done with it, and it may have not had the same impact that it has today. But there are just some very beautiful elements, and again, I'll go back to the saxophone because that's very much the bread and butter of that song. I mean, without the saxophone, what would that song be? I mean, it would still be a beautiful song, don't get me wrong, but it would definitely be missing that extra something, making sure that they had the right person that could really deliver it in the best way possible and encapsulate the mood and the themes behind the song. It just really gives it impact. You know, there are a lot of themes in this album of love and the excitement of meeting someone for the first time and the way they make you feel, all the way to losing a lover, heartbreak, disappointment, And then, of course, at the very end, we move into infidelity, guilt, self-reflection, those themes. It really does take you on a journey in that sense. This album, I will say, is a step up from Fantastic. However, Fantastic was a fantastic album, but Make It Big, you can just hear George coming into his own as a songwriter, and also a real shift in the sound, both sonically and in the way of arrangements and instrumentation. I honestly think that this album is just beautiful. There were some songs that really stood out to me. There were 3 in a row, for example, that were very reminiscent of the 1960s, and you know, when I hear 3 songs in a row that have the same kind of feeling, maybe I'd skip over one of them and favor maybe Careless Whisper or a ballad, or maybe even something that has a bit more energy like the first track. Anyway, it's time to wrap it up and give our final thoughts. I highly recommend this album for anyone who is just discovering some of George Michael's work and the early musings of Wham. I would definitely jump into this album and let it take you on a journey that is just energetic, emotional, introspective, and really just immerse yourself in this album, because I just think it's a beautiful album. Finally, I just want to thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the 1984 album Make It Big. I really enjoyed it. I'm sure it's a real blast from the past for some people who are watching this video. And I just wanted to mention really quickly, without getting emotional, even though George Michael is no longer with us, he is very much survived in his music and some of these beautiful recordings of his voice. We just really get to enjoy his talent and listen to him as if he's still here with us today. I'm sending you guys so much love. Let me know what you think of this album. I hope you love it just as much as I did, and I will see you in the next deep dive. Bye! Listen to an 80s album and your hair will go poof.